Before we get into the episode today, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are gathered on and pay my respects to elders both past and present, as well as acknowledging any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander educators who are tuning in. Welcome everyone to our podcast, Educator Yarns, and I am here with one of our winners of our Educator Awards, Kimmi, and Kimmi, very quickly, I'm just going to read out your nomination just to embarrass you. Is that okay?
No worries.
Kimmi is a Greenleaves early childhood teacher, mentor, and one of our National Indigenous Perspectives partners. She works with over 60 Greenleaf services to support the educators and leaderships teams to develop their knowledge of how to incorporate Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures, histories, and connect services with community. Kimmi is a proud Māori woman who uses her deep roots in her own culture to bridge the gap and connect spiritually and meaningfully with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and culture. Within her role, Kimmi has co-designed the pilot programs through services that focus on developing their appreciation and passion for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture. These are met with appreciation and joy from the teams. Kimmi's impact on our educators is always powerful, and she raises them up and inspires their ongoing reconciliation journey. Recently, Kimmi was part of the planning process for our centre directors to visit Uluru for their centre directors conference, the focus of which was reconciliation. Kimmi, you have a massive, massive job, like I just have to say, and good on you. Can you, welcome to our podcast, firstly. Thank you for being here, and congratulations on your award. Can I just ask you, can you tell us a little bit about Greenleaves? Because it sounds like a very big organisation.
It is. We are 65 centres strong. I've been inside of the Greenleaves family for 5 years. Just celebrated my 5-year anniversary with them. So growing really quickly, but doing so mindfully now. This year, more than the other years, because this year we were able to set up the national learning and research development program, and that's where I ended up coming into from at first in Greenleaves. I started as an educational leader, and then I had been a centre director for a number of years, and from exhaustion, because our sector is exhausting to work inside of, I ended up taking a step back into becoming an educational leader for Greenleaves, and then I scaffolded back into, after my well-being was being so well looked after by Greenleaves, I scaffolded into a centre director's position. After COVID, that was really exhausting. Supporting the community, I stepped back into the classroom. I wanted to be reminded of why I was working in childcare. So I went back into my role as a early childhood teacher for 2.5 years, and then I scaffolded back into this position that became available because of the discussions that had been collaborated across country regarding the voices of the educators in our organisation. They wanted to have more of a commitment to supporting the narrative of the educator, and so the NLRDP was created, and I was able to successfully work alongside Dr. Karen Grubb, who reimagined what that looked like for Greenleaves. So Greenleaves are reimagining what education looks like and then from an inclusive viewpoint, in partnership with working with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. But we are in the beginnings of that. So mindful that we've done a lot of listening to our teams, but we are mindful that we're creating a concept that is evolving. So what it looks like now is not what it's going to look like next year or the year after, because we're wanting to hear voices that are meaningful to support our educators, to support our children, to support the wider community.
It sounds like the organization is doing the work, and I mean, in lots of different ways, even in supporting their educators. And I think, like you've talked about, our mental well-being and our cultural load and our own capacity. And I think as Indigenous women working in early childhood, it can be exhausting. There's another layer of exhaustion that's added there, Kimmi. And I think what you seem to be very in tune with that within yourself. And I think that's really important for other educators listening to this to be mindful of, is that you need to be in tune of what's going on within you and take care of your emotional self and your well-being. Particularly when you're looking at stuff like, Aboriginal perspectives in education, it can be triggering and it can be exhausting, and you need to be able to know how to take care of yourself within this space if you're an Indigenous educator, I think. So, but it sounds like Greenleaves is a great organisation, and I think what they're doing also makes sure that, the educators that they have, they're holding on to and they're nurturing them because they're caring for them, as well as having those professional pathways for them to continue to grow and step back as they need to. It's that ebb and flow that we have. So, yeah, because I've not heard of Greenleaves before. So whereabouts are you based? You're up in Queensland?
I am. So I'm coming in from Meanjin, from Brisbane, and I'm on Turrbal Yagara country. I've been here for 7 years, and I've been working with and alongside different people of different culture on country. It's been really hard to connect in a meaningful way inside of corporate organisation. Greenleaves is not the only organisation that I have worked with in Meanjin. I worked with up in the Northern Territory for several years, and tried to make connections, always trying to make connections that are meaningful with people of country. When you're living in suburbs and when you're living in cities, it's harder. It's so much harder to connect with people of country. And when it's a real connection, I don't want it just an email connection that never has ever worked. But what does work is going out to physically meet and greet, and then build a connection that is more than what can I have.
Yeah, that's right. A relationship. The relationship is not based on what you can get. It's not a transaction. Yeah.
A transaction. So we've really been looking at what does partnership look like. To understand what partnership looks like, we really have to have a look at what the historical measures that have occurred in the past. And the reason why I feel so connected is and the importance of creating those connections is because we have a similarity. We have a similar story. It's not the same story, but our similar story is a story of colonialism. We live in a colony. I haven't said that out loud for so long, and being able to say it from a place of strength. We do live in a colony. Australia and New Zealand are colonial countries. That is not a dirty word. It is a word that I need to understand and recognize. But what does that mean? What does that mean when you say it? What it means to me is there is an imbalance working in a colony across the world. So we are not just countries isolated on our own. We are countries with similar pasts and of historical value, and connecting together is really important to make a meaningful connection. So lots of reading and understanding. I'm actually reading books at the moment to help me to connect with story from country better. And I'm reading books in particular, Sand Talk by Tyson Yunkaporta and Always Was, Always Will Be by Thomas Mayo. Those two books I have not read from cover to cover yet. And the reason why I haven't read them from cover to cover, even though those books are not long, is because I've had to stop and take pause, because every second or third page, sometimes half of a chapter, if I'm fortunate, I have to stop and realize what I've read. And I have to, because it's big. and it's heavy, but it's meaningful. And they don't leave you there. They bring you back up into a place where you can understand and then create a narrative that can work alongside to really connect. So knowing where you are is really important. I'm in Brisbane, I'm in Meanjin. There's big history here, big, heavy history here. And knowing how to talk about it safely, where everybody can be safe in the room, is really important. And also having not my words, but the words of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people coming through. And I found so much content on online where Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have actually spoken out. And so I will create a forum of or a question, pose a question, and then I'll look for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voices from online, because I haven't been able to connect and hear what they've said, and then add that into the narrative. So it's not my voice, it's their voice, it's their language, and their language is beautiful, and their language is kind, and their language has solutions, always has solutions, and the story is beautiful if you care to listen. And that's what my job is. My job is to listen, and then to be able to articulate how educators can understand what partnership looks like for us. Self-identity, what does it look like in partnership? How do we share our own culture? We need to know how to share our own culture, so that when we open up and learn about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture, we know with empathy how to share their culture and provide their voices to be the stronghold as we slowly regress back. It's an interesting journey, and it's heavy, but it's necessary, and I love it.
I can tell. And I think that passion that you speak from, it's because it resonates. And I was just watching on NITV yesterday that there's some stuff happening in the New Zealand Parliament looking at your treaty. And there's a whole heap of stuff. And I think it's not a narrative of something that's happened and it's in the past. And it's a continual thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, even though your country has a treaty and our country is fighting for a treaty, the struggle and the adversities, and as you said, that history, that it's not the same, but there are similarities, and there's parts of that we can both share. And I meet a lot of people that can really resonate with that. And so, yeah, it's just something that's happening in the news today that I thought, yeah, I don't even know how that would feel to have that, and to have that questioned and changed, and the ramifications of that, what that will mean, Kimmi. But anyway, that's another rabbit hole that we can talk about. So with Greenleaves services, are they all based in Queensland?
No, so we're across countries. We are in all states, but we're not in the Northern Territory.
Okay. And so how does that pragmatically work for you to support all of these services with our Aboriginal programs? Because what one service does really well, another service would be struggling in different communities, different resources, different protocols, different organizations. There's, and then within every team, there's a whole spectrum of people that feel differently. There are some that are confident. There are some that are apathetic and have no idea what they are doing. So how do you coordinate that in your role?
It's such a good question. That is such a good question. Okay, so first of all, we have we've created a process of induction. So how do we induct? We asked the centre directors if who was interested, if there was anybody interested in becoming a Indigenous Perspectives partner on site. And if there is anybody interested, then they would come forward and they get to work with me. What does it look like? So we ask the partner. The two things that we're working on at the moment is what does partnership look like for your centre? And the second thing is, what does acknowledgement to country look like? So we've been working on these two concepts for the past 6 months. What does partnership look like? So what I mean by that is there's two people in a partnership. There is our Australian partners, and then there is our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander partners. So our partnership would be inside of a centre, for example. If I was an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander person and I come through through the centre, where would my sense of belonging be? So we have a look through the lens of what it might look like from walking through the door of our centre into the hub, into the reception area, and going through the corridors, going through the indoor spaces of all of the rooms, and then going outside into the outdoor spaces. So whereabouts can a cultural identity be seen from as you weave around the centres, inside of a centre. What they're looking for is to make sure that there's if there's a gesture of tokenism, that we take that out and we unpack it. Why is this display here? Who is this display for? And what is this display trying to say? What is it telling us? So we work on partnership and identity. Now, the key things are: do you know the name of country that you're on when you're boarding your identity? And do you know how to say hello in language? And if those two things, once they've found those two things, then we ask them to display the word hello, so that when you're coming in, you can see if you're in suitable country, then you'll see in our centres when you walk in the door, Galanguruindu, or you might see Yigara language saying Garamba Bigi, or you might see for both Yigara and Turrbal the word Wanya. So when you're walking in centre, you might see we're encouraging the narrative of language as a beginning. So and then asking teams to greet Wanya as they come through the door, Garamba Bigi as they come through the door. So language can be heard. And then it might look like, if we have the flags, why do we have the flags? What are the colours of the flags? What is the intent? So it's the why. So that when people come through the doors, when we're going on centre tour, it will change the narrative of how we speak and how we're introducing. So we are intrinsically intertwining the language and the stories as we grow and as we learn. So Jessica, small steps, really small steps, because it's not easy for people to wrap their mind around partnership or learning new things that are not their own. So very small steps.
And do you have an organisational wrap?
So yes, we do. So we collaborated an organisational wrap with the NLRDP. That was the reason why we took our centre directors on their on conference in Uluru, and we had we had 63 centres then. All went up to our centre directors, all went up on country to Uluru, and because that's where the Statement of the Heart was written. And we launched our Greenleaves Reconciliation Action Plan from Anungu country. We had Thomas Mayo. He zoomed in from Singapore, and he read us many inserts from Always Was, Always Will Be before it was launched. And we chose to support learning with a multimodal perspective. So we had big round tables, everybody sat around there, there's 10 people to a table. We had multimodal perspectives, art materials in the middle. And as we spoke and as we delivered content, we asked the teams to create, listen without looking, and looking without, while they listened, to create something. That's what this actually, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it, but this is, I'll have to take the...
That's okay. You can send me a picture. That's okay.
It's we did vision journals. So our vision journals were to promote a narrative of what that would look like. So we drew as we went through our stories, so that we could we could understand what partnership looked like for us, so that we could take it back into our centres and then create that narrative ongoing. When I'm connecting, I will refer to the vision journals, and we refer to the different books that we've been reading. but it's not one size fits all. Some centres are still on their understanding of acknowledgement. Some people are connecting by attending cultural awareness events with their teams. Some people are visiting markets to go and meet people of country and gather story and make connections. Others are playing sports to reconnect. So it's finding the identity of the centre by looking at what is available in the community.
Hi everyone, I'm just jumping in quickly to remind you all that Beck and I have a series of upcoming events and workshops all throughout Queensland where we'll be yarning about the new ELF principles, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspectives and sustainability. We'll be in Toowoomba, Cairns, the Gold Coast, Brisbane, Mackay, Townsville, you name it, we'll be there, and we hope to see you all there. All right, take care everyone, enjoy the episode. Is there a specific project or initiative at one of the services that you're particularly proud of?
There's a few. So Carindale is would be one of the many. Carindale were the centre that nominated me.
Yeah. Great.
That was Kelly, and Kelly is the educational leader, and Lydia is the centre director there. So when I go into their centre, they have story everywhere, and their centre tours share the story with people of country. They've been working with two Yigara men of country, Uncle Derek and DJ, and they've been they got to share that narrative often as they go through. The stories are always changing through the corridor and going into the rooms. I like how they weave their story into the centre tours, so that you're being shared a journey, not just things being offered in childcare. For example, menus and experiences. They're telling a narrative of country. So there's a few of our centres that are doing that, but Carindale, they were the first that I had seen do that. They've been making, they made a beautiful sand goanna out of wire, and they got the children to, out of chicken wire, and then they got the children to weave material through, and they've created this beautiful artwork that they're looking at putting on the facade, so that when people are coming through, they'll be able to see the sand goanna, which is a totem for Yigara people.
What I love is that even though you're an organisation, you're very strong on each of these 65 services has their own identity. They're part of their own community. It's not this cookie cutter approach where it's like, let's take that now from that service and put it into the other 64 services. It's about each service finding their own story, their own connections and their own place, which I think is so important. I know that you've mentioned some of the particular books that have influenced you, but are there any other resources, tools, or programs that have influenced your approach to Aboriginal perspectives in the curriculum at Greenleaves? So
when we were up on country in Uluru, one of the experiences that we wanted to share with the teams was games, how to play. And Ausport did a Australian government, Australian Sports Commission, they created Yalunga, the Yalunga traditional Indigenous games. Have you seen it?
Yeah, so good. It's so good. Yeah, and people think, oh, it's for primary school, but so many of the games you can do in early childhood.
Yeah, so the example games that we took up there was a kangaroo relay, which was so funny. We had one where you had to roll a big gym ball, one of those yoga balls, and then you had to throw tennis balls at it. So it was like aiming a spear. It was amazing. It was really cool. In the indoor games, we played string games and we did knuckle bones. And we told story of what it meant from the Yalunga games. And we also, those were games from back in the day when I was a kid. So it was nice to be able to see the familiarity that these games are familiar. Games that they're also very familiar in regards to a cultural perspective. And so it's the Dr. Karen Martin, she wrote Lessons of an Elder, an article called Lessons of an Elder. And in there, she talked about yarning, learning, unlearning and relearning. So those 4 concepts we took up to Uluru, and we shared those with like a planning cycle with our centre directors to let them know, this is the part of the journey that you're on with acknowledgement. We're in the yarning part of understanding. After the yarning comes the learning. What did we learn about this process of acknowledgement to country? After the learning, there's unlearning. What is the unlearning? The unlearning is unlearning the biases that we have, that we end up formulating, unconscious biases and conscious biases, to relearn. What is relearning? Relearning is the partnership version of what it looks like when everybody is included. So those would be the article by Dr. Karen Martin is one that we are still weaving through, and definitely the Yolnga Games. That book is fun. It was educational for me to see how other people saw how to reimagine what outdoor play looks like. But again, it's still early stages. When you have a concept, but then you have to go back and nurture. We have, I connect with all of the states once a month on Zoom, and then as needed. So how does this work? It's a lot of centres, as you said, it's a lot of centres on many different countries. So the centres that are on same country, those ones we're grouping together so that when we make a connection, their knowledge can be shared and discovered and interweaved, so it can become more common, and we can voice those individual journeys to become a collective on country. So here on Turrbal Yigara country. And one thing I didn't realize about Aboriginal sharing, Aboriginal country, was they have parts of country where both where Yigara and Turrbal share land. There's intersection of land, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. They share country. Aboriginal people share country, and they have their own values and their own beliefs and their own language, but they still have an interconnected shed of oneness, and beautiful merge. So those are examples that we share with our Greenleaves centres, is if people of country can share. Do you think we can share too? What does sharing look like for us while we're on their country? A little deeper dive as opposed, and better questions, asking better questions to have thoughtful, mindful responses. Or if they're not mindful responses, then I know where they are, so we can guide them into becoming more mindful.
I think it sounds like you're doing so much stuff, but I do wonder, have you had challenges in implementing Aboriginal programs at Greenleaves?
The challenges is time. Is the main challenge. Is everybody. So Dr. Karen Grubb, she is the person who reimagined what education might look like. And she spent time in every centre over a 2-year period to ask educators, what is it that you want? What is it that you would like? And she spent on collaboration of all of this evidence that she gathered when she went walkabout across all of the centres, was the 2 things that were at the top of the list. The one at the very top was time. Educators want more time to be able to create better programs, spend quality time with children. And the second was we want Indigenous perspectives to be shared so that we know and we become better versed in sharing the journey. So when there's quite a few partners that Dr. Karen has imagined us to come into, and Indigenous Perspectives with one. I actually sit in this position with Dominic Lowe. He's a Pita man, and he and I work together on supporting the Indigenous perspective narrative. So that's how does that make sense?
No, it does. And I think time is a huge thing, because you know what, we wear many different hats in early childhood, and also time is that I think for us as well, we have to be patient, and we have to be, it's not a race, and to do this work and to do this work well and meaningfully and to do it justice, you have to go slow as well. Like it's not a race. It's about doing things authentically, respectfully, with integrity, and taking the time to get it right, so as an organization and for each service. So I think, what you're saying, it makes complete sense to me. And I love that it's so thoughtful and intentional, and there's research and asking educators what is it that they would like and what is it that they need. I think these are questions that every organization and service should be asking of their educators, and it really sounds quite inspiring what Greenleaves has done. But can I ask, with any of the services that you've worked with, has there been resistance or misconceptions from colleagues or from family or from communities that you've found?
There hasn't been many. There's been a few. So the one that's come to mind is acknowledgement to country. What's the language that was used was, why do we have to do acknowledgement to country when it's such a tokenistic thing? And I listened to that because I wanted to hear what she was saying, because there's so many things in that. So I thought maybe, so how it's done, why it's done, where it's done, maybe looking at your intent when you're talking about acknowledgement to country. But for me, I hear acknowledgement to country, I hear it frequently. But what I don't hear is the accountability of acknowledgement to country. What I mean by that is, when people acknowledge country, and they say, I promise to, or they say things like, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, then my question is, how? How do you acknowledge? And my question is, when they say, oh, we promise to look after the animals and we promise to look after the land, my question is, how do you look after the animals? How do you look after the land? The accountability of it, just like the United Nations. There are rights. Everybody has those rights. Every child has rights, but there's also responsibility to those rights. Yes, you can have an education. It is your responsibility to make sure you come and be a part of the forum of education. So, like an acknowledgement to country, like a centre philosophy, we adhere to our centre philosophies. An acknowledgement to country for me means the accountability of an acknowledgement to country. Why are you saying that acknowledgement to country? To whom are you saying it to? So where is that commitment lie? To what end? There isn't an end. It's an ongoing journey. So for me, what I heard from her was, it's such a tokenistic thing to say, she was saying. And I thought straight away, that's because you are not understanding why you are saying an acknowledgement or who you're saying it to. You're saying it to the ear.
Yeah. And it's a verb, you know what I mean? An acknowledgement of country is a verb. You do it, and that's what I say to people all the time. An acknowledgement of country is not just something that you say, it's something that you do, And so how do you live that? It's not just something you give lip service to. So yeah, I hear you. That's a perfect example. And I think something so meaningful that other educators that are listening to this can take as a provocation into their own services to critically reflect on their acknowledgement of country, and who are they saying it to and how are they doing that? Is it meaningful? And I think there are a lot of people that might say acknowledgements of country and they're just going through the motions, because I feel like it can be rote learnt for a lot of our kids. They just say it. They don't know exactly that. They don't know who the traditional owners are. You have to have a relationship, that connection. yeah, I think it's something that they can not only reflect on as educators, but reflect on with children as well. That's so good. What advice would you give to educators who are just starting to incorporate Aboriginal perspectives into their teaching? Or what advice would you give to an organisation like Greenleaf, like, because you're coming from an organisational point of view, not just an individual educator, but that are really trying to support this or change this within their service?
So the two things that we're currently working on, I'm a huge advocate for. What does partnership look like to you in your organization? And what does a meaningful acknowledgement look like? I would advocate those two at the very beginning of a journey and at the very end of a journey, because those two things are the two things that as a country, as a nation, we didn't really get right in Australia. We didn't acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. They were never acknowledged for a very, very long time. And all of a sudden, in the digital age, we need to acknowledge because people can actually see us now. That was really interesting to learn and to read. The lack of the reason why I wanted to come in to Australia it was actually to work with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, because my journey back home in my own country was to work with Māori and Pacific Island people. And I wanted to know what was over here. After learning so much and growing so much at home, I wanted to know what it looked like over here, because I was hearing stories that were not good, that were not kind. And I thought, no, it can't be like that. When I come over and I landed in Larrakia Nation country, and I saw for myself, I was disheartened. It didn't stop the struggle. I've been here for 17 years now. I never stopped being true to an Indigenous perspective. It just took different. It just looked different in every organisation that I happened to be working in, because it was restricted by so many policies and procedures of the cans and the can do's and the can't do's. So always in the background, making sure that people were being included with an Indigenous perspective. But now, after all of this, so long a time in my career, we finally get to voice out and work as a collective to support a new narrative that could be born. And this is really exciting for me for what's going on in New Zealand at the moment, the things that are happening over here. It's all about supporting people who were here first. And as I am not in my own country, and I advocate indigeneity across the world. And I think, and I'm living in Australia, and I'm very humbled to be living in Australia regarding the journey of the Indigenous perspective, learning about those words, learning about the word Aboriginal, the word Indigenous, the word First Nations. Those three words can often take away from understanding the people of country. So Turrbal Yegara is where I am at the moment. But if I was just to say Indigenous, then that gets put into a melting pot of indigeneity, and the identity of Turrbal and Yegara therefore isn't respected. But this is where I am. I'm on Turrbal Yegara country. And I think people need to voice that more. If they're on country, voice the name of the country. Instead of just saying, I'm working for an Indigenous perspective, say I'm working for Turrbal Yegara because I'm on their land. I'm working for, or if they say Wominjeka, I'm on Bunurong land in South Australia. Or if they say I'm Biripi in New South Wales. If you say those names out loud, then it identifies the different countries, not just one country, but all countries in Australia.
There's just so, you speak with such passion, and you're my person, Kimmi, I have to tell you. When I went to New Zealand, I went to one of the Māori schools where they only spoke in language to the children. And here, we have Aboriginal preschools. Some of them are bilingual schools where they include language, but they're mainly just for Aboriginal children. What really struck me about the Māori schools is that the children that were going there, where they only speak language, is that they were from Australia, they were from Japan, and there the families, they value the traditional owners so much that they say, we don't care about them learning English. We want them to learn the mother tongue of the country where they're living, and the respect, even the curriculum framework in New Zealand. This is before. Now we've got some changes to our early years learning framework, but the New Zealand curriculum framework, it had that respect interwoven, and it was very emotional for me when I saw that, because I realized then what it could be, and it influenced me so greatly at curriculum that it really was a very emotional, it was a sad experience, but it was also a motivating experience, because I thought we have so much to learn. Because the history, it is different. There are similarities, but there's so much that we can learn from each other. And I think that's what you've been able to do. You've been able to take what you have and bring it here and into Greenleaves. And it's just, it's really inspiring listening to you speak, I have to say. Can I ask you, looking ahead, what changes or developments would you like to see in the field of Aboriginal education within early childhood?
Okay, big picture. I would love to see an Aboriginal and a Torres Strait Islander framework that is written specifically with your values and your beliefs, written with a intent of creating your own framework inside of the educational system. I know it can be done because New Zealand did it with New Zealand Māori, and then they also did it with Tapasa, which is the Pacific Island early childhood framework. I think it's a possibility to be done in the near future, in my lifetime. Because it's not about recreating the wheel. It's about looking at what has already been created and then refining it into your own voice. It's an idea of a seed but you can have a look at what it looks like in another country and how it can be brought back into this one. And more forums for creating content that is now, I have a lot of discussions around 8 ways of Aboriginal knowings and possum skin pedagogy. Those are the 2 frameworks that we're looking at really closely as we go through our journey along in our early childhood pedagogy process of planning in Greenleaves. We're looking at the deeper levels of and what it looks like to learn a perspective that isn't ours, but that we can adopt into our iwa alif. So the big picture, I'd love to see a framework.
I'd love to see it too. And I'm glad you spoke that. You've put that out there in the universe. So when you put something out there, you never know. Can I ask you, is there a book or a resource or an individual that has inspired you the most in your journey?
Is there a book? Well, there's a compilation of books. But those 2 in them, there is one of, I think I've forgotten the name of it though.
Who's
Dr.
it by?
Karen. I can't remember the name of it. Dr. Karen Grubb had it recommended that I read it. I'll have to let you share the name.
Yeah, you can share it with me after. That's fine.
But it's about it's how you read it. It's I've never read a book like this before, and it changed. I could feel my brain growing.
Who's it by?
I can't remember. All I can remember is what the book looks like. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. You tell me later, and I'll put it in. I'll put a slide. I'll be like, this is the book. Okay, this is where the slide's gonna go. Here's the book. Okay, and we'll edit it in. That's fine. Okay. And what about a person? Has there been a person that's inspired you on your journey?
Yeah. Auntie Denise Proud. Auntie Denise, she makes me cry.
She has that effect on people, doesn't she? Yeah.
Auntie Denise Proud and her daughter,
Monique
yeah. Proud. So I was very, very honoured to be able to see Monique Proud give her, she presented at the Educational Leaders Conference 2024 this year, and I was honored to sit there watching her speak, and then seeing Auntie Denise Proud in the audience, because that was a generational vision of passing the torch and then speaking the narrative from a young viewpoint. And the visual transgenerational perspective that I got was amazing. Auntie Denise Proud, I've heard her speak several times. Her presentations are beautiful. I've followed her journey. Only for the past year have I followed her journey, but her journey has been long. And every time I have a question, I ask. I have Auntie Denise on my shoulder. I think, what would Auntie Denise say?
Yeah.
And I could see her growling me or saying, yeah, okay. So she's really changed how my intent. She's given me a lot of fire to be able to really make a truer connection. So she's my person that I want to shout out to.
Yeah, beautiful. And a very worthy one. I think she's a big influence on me as well. So yeah, very good. If listeners could take away one key message from our conversation today, what would you want it to be?
Key message: just do it. Don't be scared. Even if it's a tokenistic beginning, it's a beginning. It's okay to be tokenistic at first. You just can't stay there. You need to move. So if you see that it's a tokenistic perspective that you are doing it, then change the narrative and move. Just do it. It's probably what I would say.
I love that. Let's end it there, Kimmi. But thank you so much.
Okay.
And you were so well deserving of this award. And I think your community, we saw lots of comments of people saying how amazing you were, not just the service that nominated you. And I now have a better understanding as to why. I was already impressed when I read about you, but meeting you, I think you're a very inspiring person. I think the change that you are advocating for and the change that you are creating, it has such big effects, because we know that at early childhood we're that nucleus, and it all comes out from us, and those ripple effects that we're going to continue to see from what you've been able to bring into our profession. And I think I love your vision of having a framework. Let's hope it happens. But thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to today's podcast. To find out more information about the Koori curriculum and how we can best support you in your early learning service, visit www.kooricurriculum.com.